So in the last video, we took a really cheap Nintendo Switch Lite that I got off Facebook Marketplace and then transformed it with the new shells, Hall effect thumbsticks, new button set, and of course that beautiful OLED screen by Taki Uden. But while I was doing the modifications, I found an issue with the cheap Switch Lite, and that's the R bumper button doesn't work. So it basically, after I took it apart, it was all sticky, so something's been spilt on it, and the button itself stopped working. So in this video we're going to repair it. It will require soldering, and we're going to get the hot airflow workstation out. You won't need a microscope, but it might be handy if you don't have as good an eyesight. Right, let's get on with this repair so I can then start enjoying this OLED Switch Lite. So this is where the difference is between a normal Nintendo Switch and a Nintendo Switch Lite comes into play, because unfortunately those Joy-Cons don't come off a Switch Lite, and if it is the right bumper, well, that one's integrated into the motherboard itself. Now of course if it was the left bumper, then it would have been a different story, because you can buy that whole complete board for around about $10 on AliExpress, but unfortunately it's not. It's the right bumper, so it's integrated into the motherboard, so the best option that we have is to actually change that button itself. Now if we jump on over to AliExpress, we can see that this seller here has a really cool picture of the Nintendo Switch Lite, and he's got it circled, all the different components that he sells. But it's this one here, number 6, the micro switch, and that's the one that we're going to be ordering to do this repair. And at £1.10 it's pretty cheap, which to be fair is about $1.40. So I'm actually going to order 2 of these just in case one of them doesn't work, and if I do end up with a spare one, well that's fantastic, because then if I ever get another Switch that needs a replacement button, I've got one to do the job. Now there will be a few things that you'll need if you want to do one of these repairs yourself. You're going to need at least a soldering iron. A hot airflow workstation makes things a little bit easier. You're going to need some solder wick, some really good solder. I use leaded Kester solder, some good flux, and then some tweezers, screwdrivers, etc. Now there's one more thing that's very important that we're going to need to do this repair, and of course it's the Switch Lite holder made by a friend of mine called Aaron. Link is in the description below, and this just makes repairing and modifying the Nintendo Switch Lite so much easier, and it stops you from damaging those analog sticks. But what if you don't have a 3D printer? Well, that's where the sponsor of today's video comes in, JLCPCB. Now of course they don't just sell PCBs, they also 3D print your parts. So go on the website, drag across that STL file. Once it loads up, you can have loads of different options of material you can print it in. So you can have it resin printed or FDM printed with ABS or PLA, pretty much whatever you want. So not only do you get a fast, friendly, professional service, they're also really competitive on pricing as well. Just look how much it costs to get it resin printed, $7.44. That's an absolute bargain. And you don't just have to have it in matte white, you can have it spray painted as well. We've got loads of different colours here, and we've got the option between matte and glossy. So if we take a look at this one JLC sent me last week, you can see that I've resin printed it and it was in matte white, but I ticked the box for glossy ultramarine and it looks absolutely fantastic. So check the link in the description below. JLC has always got special offers and coupons on, and you can bring your ideas to life with JLC. So thanks again to JLC for sponsoring today's video, and I think we've done enough waffling on. Let's get on with fixing the R bumper button for the Nintendo Switch Lite, and of course we'll start disassembling it first. So as you can see here, I do have another one of Aaron's switch light holders, but this one is in clear, just so you can see exactly how it works. Now, of course, there's a link in the description below to make a world where you can download Aaron's switch light holder yourself. Now let's just fast forward through the disassembly, because I'm sure we all know how to take a switch light apart by now. Now unfortunately, unlike where we did the OLED switch light screen that Takeyudan released, we're actually going to have to take the motherboard out completely, because the button is soldered on the other side. Now it's really good to use one of these PCB clamps, because we're actually going to be using hot air to remove the old one and then just solder the new one on. Now you could just use a soldering iron to take the button off, lots of flux, and then just go in there with some tweezers, grab the button, and then just start taking it off one side and then going across the 3 pins on the back and then the other side. There is a way to get it off without. It's just a lot easier if you just put some flux on it and then heat it up, get the tweezers, and it will just come straight off without any issues whatsoever. So as you can see, I'm just slightly moving the button, wiggling it, using the hot air to do all the work, and then it will just fall off nice and cleanly. So now I've got the button off, I'm just going to clean those solder points, and we're going to use some solder wick and just sort of rub it over those points, which is going to suck up all that excess solder and then leave us with nice clean pads left behind. So now the pads are clean, we're also going to wipe it down with IPA, which are done off camera. Now we've got the new button here, we're going to offer it up, and as you can see, it's got 3 pins and then a top and bottom mount. So we're going to attach the bottom mount first. I've put some flux on there, and then what we're going to do is just sort of hold the switch down with the tweezers, not putting too much pressure on it. So as you can see here, I'm coming in, I'm holding it down with the tweezers just to stop it from moving. And then I've got some solder on my iron, and I'm just going to sort of push it against the side, and it should attach nicely, just like that. And then of course it's just a case of doing the other side and then doing those 3 pins. Again, it's just the same, they're pretty much sitting on top of the pads. So a little bit of flux, a little bit of solder on the end of your tip, and then just gently go across each one. Now, of course, I'm not going to waste your time showing you me putting it all back together, but what I can say is that our bumper is working perfectly fine now with no issues whatsoever. So what do you guys think of these little mini repair videos? Let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if this is something that you would tackle if you don't have much experience with soldering. So I'm going to end the video here, but as always, if you enjoy my content, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and then hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads. I'm JP, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.